horrifying images out of Bucha as Ukraine regains territory, and new calls for Russian President Vladimir Putin to be put on trial for war crimes.
These acts of terrors won't go unpunished.
This guy is brutal, and what's happening in Bucha is outrageous.
Ukraine accuses Russia of genocide. Officials say the bodies of more than 400 civilians have been recovered in Bucha. The mayor of that town on what he witnessed. Coming up first.
Half measures are not enough anymore. This is the plea of the victims of rape, torture, and killings.
Ukraine pleads once again with its allies after that grisly discovery in Bucha. One of the 5 Ukrainian MPs who were in Ottawa last week asking for help is also ahead. And could Russia set its sights on Canada's Arctic next? The Prime Minister and Defence Minister are meeting with the premiers of the territories about that threat tonight. We'll find out what came of that meeting. There's been global condemnation today as disturbing images surface from Bucha, a community just outside of Ukraine's capital. A warning, the images you are about to see are difficult to look at. Bodies of civilians strewn across the streets, some with hands tied behind their backs. Journalists on the ground say there is evidence of people being shot at close range by Russian forces. Ukrainian officials estimate the civilian death toll in Bucha is above 400. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky went to Bucha to see the atrocities firsthand. He's accusing Russia of committing genocide. And Ukraine's foreign minister says what happened is just the tip of the iceberg.
The situation in Mariupol is much worse compared to what we've seen in Bucha and other cities, towns and villages nearby Kyiv. It's time to put all hesitation, reluctance, business-wise arguments aside and think about human sufferings and the need to stop the Russian war machine until it kills and destroys more on its way.
And we are going to speak with the mayor of Bucha in just a moment. But first, for a big picture look at the conflict in Ukraine, we reach the CBC's Katie Simpson in Lviv. Katie, what more are we learning about what happened in Bucha?
We don't yet know the full scope of the violence in Bucha, and so we're seeing Ukrainian soldiers searching through piles of debris, through bombed-out buildings, and right now they're trying to deal with the immediate safety concerns. They're looking for unexploded mines, they're looking for traps, they're looking for hazards, and of course they have the absolutely brutal task of looking for more bodies. Again, it is going to take quite some time before we have a full scope of the violence. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky toured Bucha today, and he described what he saw as war crimes, as genocide. And again, he is continuing to put pressure on Western leaders, on allies, to do more to support his country. He wants more punishing sanctions against Russia, and that is going to be a real key argument as this crisis goes on, because he is really trying to say to particularly leaders in Europe, listen, your purchasing of Russian gas, Russian oil, it's helping finance this war. And we've already seen some sanctions, particularly Canada and the United States, because they don't rely on Russian energy as much as other countries, particularly in Europe. But you're going to see more pressure applied to the leaders of Germany and other major European countries that do rely so heavily on Russian oil and gas to really step up their sanctions in the wake of this horrific discovery, these horrific discoveries. And they're only expected to continue. This is just the first look inside this one particular region. Remember, we've had horrific fighting in the south of Ukraine as well, and we don't know yet the full scope of what's been going on there either.
What can you tell us, Katie, about where you are today? You've just arrived in Lviv. What's happening?
So here in Lviv, compared to what we're seeing in other parts of this country, this is a relatively safe place. Over the past month, there have been 2 attacks here, one on an oil depot, another on a military location. But in terms of attacks on civilians, like we've seen in other places, that hasn't been the case here in the city center. When you walk around, the air raid sirens go off, and we didn't see any sort of panic in the street. But there is one concern that was raised by the MP for Lviv. He held a small news conference conference today announcing that they're opening up a new community support center for soldiers that are tasked with protecting this city, protecting Lviv. Again, it hasn't come under the same sort of fire, the same kind of attacks we've seen in other parts of the countries, but because Russia is so unpredictable, they feel they need to make sure that the security preparations are in place here. So they're asking for donations, they're asking for money, they're asking for helmets, they're asking for body armor, and that is really the focus here, even though we haven't seen that same kind of fighting, that same kind of carnage here in this part of the country.
Okay, the CBC's Katie Simpson. Thank you. As Katie was just telling us, the eyes of the world today are on Bucha and the images coming out of there. To find out more about what has happened, we reached the mayor, Anatoliy Fedoruk. He is near that city. I spoke to him with the help of a translator. Mayor, the world is now seeing the terrible aftermath of what has happened in your community. What can you tell us about what the past few weeks have been like?
Виходячи із запитання, яке ви задали, будь-яка цивілізована, освічена людина
Any civilized, educated person can feel a great pity about the state in which they found themselves during the war which started Russian Federation.
Я мав за честь
I've been honored to work with the community for 26 years, and we were building a great community, a great place, which Russian military destroyed. And the worst part is there are more than 300 victims, children, adults, senior citizens, who were in any manner, who were not military people or personnel at all.
і ви запитали за почуття.
And you ask how we feel and what we feel. I'm sorry. The only thing is great anger, not only to Russian military, but I am very sorry to say, even to Russian people who live in Russia.
І це не лише моя
And it is not only my emotions. These are emotions on every Ukrainian person, no matter where he or she lives.
Це не перша спроба Росії, північного сусіда.
This is not the first attempt of our neighbor Russia to destroy Ukraine and destroy Ukrainian independence. This happened during Tsar times, during World War II, and it happens today again.
The international authorities will investigate whether war crimes were committed in the alleged killing of civilians. What do you want the world to know about how members of your community had their lives taken?
Хочу, щоб ми всі розуміли.
The murder, the killing of any person is a crime. But here we talk about mass murder, and it's not only in my district. I am going to give you some examples where it happened.
На мою суб'єктивну думку, якщо не дати
If these crimes are not persecuted, then they will happen again in different countries, in small countries. We do not want to see this crime happen again, and we don't want countries as Russia to persecute people because just for that they want to live in the peaceful society.
північна
I just want to get the world's attention that Pridnestrovia, Ukraine, Middle Asia, Caucasus, Crimea, these are the areas where Russia is trying to bring so-called, in quotes, Russian peace.
I see the children's toys behind him, and I wonder how he and his family, Mr. Mayor, how did you and your family survive the past few weeks?
На превеликий жаль, я виходячи із
I am unfortunately separated from my family. I convinced them to use the last green corridor to leave. Also, my daughter is working as a medic, and I stayed behind. I am right now alone. From 50,000 citizens in our town, only 3,500 were left, and out of these, 300 were murdered, and we are not sure that this is the final number.
Я, як пояснював, вимушений був сьогодні.
My building was burnt by Russians because they knew that it's a mayor's house, and today I had the first chance to go to the neighboring district to get the new phone.
Дякуючи Господу Богу і
I am able to talk to you today, and I am grateful to people who were hiding me during these horrible times and who did not surrender me to enemy. And I am hoping to see my family soon.
My last question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. The Foreign Minister of Ukraine, Dmytro Kuleba, has said that what has happened in Bucha is just the tip of the iceberg, that it is worse elsewhere in Ukraine. And I wonder what you think when you hear that.
Я можу лише підтвердити його слова сьогодні в нашому місті.
I can confirm his words. Today, the President of Ukraine, Zelensky, visited our town, and I can say that places like that are in every city and every town in Ukraine.
Через що слова
That's why I confirm the words of the Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. Everywhere the Russian forces occupied our country, the situation is the same.
Mr. Mayor, we are so profoundly sorry and horrified by what has happened in your community. And I thank you for taking time to talk to us about it today.
дякую і вам, дякую.
Thank you for your condolences. It is very important, all the work that you are doing, because the world needs to see, and the right side of the world need to see how we fighting here with the horror and with evil.
Гарного вам дня.
I wish you good day and peace to all of us.
Дякую.
Дякую. Слава Україні.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.